And hello again from wjlive, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Editor at the Western Journal. We're bringing you a slightly different episode today. If you've been watching wjlive at all over the last few weeks, you've seen our coverage of the war in Ukraine and the extensive humanitarian crisis taking place there as well. What's happening is that millions of women and children and some elderly men ineligible for military service, are fleeing the war zone. They need help. They need food, they need shelter, they need protection, and they need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, we've partnered with an organization called CityServe. CityServe goes in when there are humanitarian crises like the one we're seeing right now, and they do just that. They clothe the refugees, they provide shelter for them, they feed them, and they share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them. If you feel led during this interview to support CityServe, you can go to westernjournal.com/helpukraine. That's westernjournal.com/helpukraine. Earlier today, Western Journal's Grant Atkinson and Paul Weber were able to catch up with the co-founder and chairman of CityServe. And honestly, folks, every American needs to see the interview that took place this morning. We're about to roll it. Every American needs to see it. At least every Christian needs to see it. It'll make a difference in your life, and I think it'll provide the opportunity for you to make a difference in a lot of incredibly needy Ukrainians' lives. People who need help, and people who, most of all, need to hear the gospel.
Meals are coming here. Then they're going to be redistributed across the line into another warehouse in Ukraine.
Not to wait till tomorrow, but we're doing it tonight, today, and right now.
It's really great to know that people far away from us on the other side of the Atlantic Sea is standing together with the people from Ukraine those days.
Today we have the chance to sit down and talk to Dave Donaldson with CityServe. Dave, the first question I just wanted to ask you is a little bit of just a background question about CityServe. What exactly is it that you guys do in a more widespread sense?
Well, first of all, it's a joy to be with you on Western Journal Live, and I also want to express our gratitude, CityServe and our partners, for your articles and really keeping your readers informed of what we're trying to do in Ukraine, Poland, Romania, and especially along the border there. CityServe International, our mission is really to equip, resource the local church so it can fulfill its mission. And that also includes responding to victims of disasters around the world. And this past year, as an example, we received $520 million of product from major stores and companies, home furnishings, anything you can think of. And we were able to channel that through local churches to families in need in America. And then we coordinated the Farmers to Families Food Box program with the White House and USDA during the pandemic and distributed over 17 million of these food boxes all through local churches. And we were able to pray with millions of people that were suffering through the pandemic.
Dave, this is Paul Weber with Western Journal and Liftable TV and Liftable Media, and I'm honored to be with you. And we've had the opportunity to dialogue over the past couple weeks as we've been writing about your work on the ground there in Ukraine and Poland and the surrounding region. And I'd like you to get a little deep, if you don't mind. Tell our listeners, our viewers, exactly what's going on the ground in Ukraine and how you're partnering with the local church and how you actually establish this network there to begin with, so that you could respond in such a timely and effective way.
Well, first of all, honor to be with you, Paul. You've been one of my longtime heroes, and just greatly appreciate how the Lord has used you over the years.
Well, we're part of the Mutual Admiration Society, Dave, so we're in good shape here. So, but
well, let me answer your last question first. We work with local churches around the world. I've been doing this for over 30 years and have worked in over 100 different countries. And so obviously you live long enough and you build a pretty good network and trust. And our international director, Carl Hargestram, is actually from Sweden, and he was part of the Pentecostal European Fellowship. In addition, his boss, Pele, is over Europe, all the Pentecostal churches, and then the vice chair of that is Marek Kamiński, the Bishop of Poland. So he's over pretty much all the evangelical churches like Assemblies of God, and great leader. And so through these leaders and churches that we already have on the ground, it's a pretty sizable network, especially in Poland and then in Ukraine.
So what you're saying is that the church is working exactly the way the church is supposed to work. It's working in the local communities. It's establishing relationships in those local communities. And then what CityServe is doing is sort of coming alongside and empowering them to be that provider of necessary food and housing and shelter, medical supplies and other things. So it's kind of like the way the body of Christ is supposed to work, right?
The church is indispensable.
Amen.
Especially with this crisis. I spent, a lot of time on the border. I just got back, and I can't adequately describe how heartbreaking it is, especially with young women and children. Today, you posted a story of a little girl that was abducted. Just yesterday, there was a report that 50 traffickers were arrested at the train station where we were at. And so there's a lot of darkness, but there's also a lot of light through the Church of Jesus. And when you're talking about young women and children, and I appreciate Western Journal posting some of the pictures and video of these young women, because they could be our daughter. They could be our granddaughter. It's shocking. And the only way that you're going to be able to help that young woman and that child is you're going to have to be able to provide a safe house, transportation from that border, evacuate them out of there as soon as possible, get them into churches that we now have that have been converted into safe houses, where, as you described, we're providing a holistic support to these families, including dealing with the PTSD. I was with the kids, and they're so defocused, because of the trauma. And so it's a heartbreaker. But right now we have a threefold strategy. One, we are rushing, as you know, meals into Ukraine. And I'm not going to mention where, because you're the first to hear this.
Yeah, Dave,
that one of our
Dave Grant and I were talking before the show about there's a number of things obviously you can't talk about specifically because what we're doing there is clandestine, and we're in the middle of a hostile territory, right, Grant?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we totally understand that it's a sensitive situation, and so, definitely not something that we want to exploit or anything like that, but certainly grateful for what you're doing and, anything that you are able to tell us about just to get the word out there.
Well, thank you, Grant. Yeah, if I could illustrate that, one of our distribution depots that we were looking to use was a facility that was bombed overnight on Sunday, killing 39. Our leader there, who was going to be handling the distribution of the product to needy families, he survived. And if our product had not been delayed, he would have been killed. So the stakes couldn't be higher. And so thank you for being sensitive to that. But we're rushing emergency food into Ukraine, even behind enemy lines, and we need to pray for their safety. These are heroic drivers. Secondly, as you mentioned, Paul, we're building out the capacity of these churches so that they can care for even more refugees. For example, they're in Lublin. It's about an hour from the border. We're caring for about 80 refugees. We're expanding that to 250. And we're injecting some significant resources into other churches to expand their ability to serve these families. And then third, we are taking on specific projects, such as that train station. And that train station it's a haunted house. Yeah. And I have video of it going through it. The manager of that train station said to me, "We don't need pictures, we need cots." And I said, okay, well, because of the generosity of the people of the Lord, cots, blankets, pillows are being set up all over that train station. And we're also going to be doing things to encourage the workers that are there, many, around the clock.
Dave, this is exactly why the Western Journal and the Liftable companies have partnered with you. We are working together as the hands and feet of Jesus in the region that's so in need of support and help and vital, timely supplies. And that's why we appreciate CityServe International and your work and your team's work on the ground. I know you just got back and you're probably exhausted, so we're grateful that you're taking the time with us here today. But at Western Journal, we're journalism with a shepherd's heart. So we're journalists here advancing the truth of Christ and the truth of what's going on the ground there in Ukraine and Poland and the region, but it's with a servant's heart, it's with a shepherd's heart, it's with a believer's heart. That's why these partnerships, the body of Christ coming together, and what you're doing there is so vital. Why should, tell our viewers, and I know this is a straightforward or simple question, but tell our viewers why they should care. Why should people in the West who are protected in America, why should we care about what's going on half a world away?
Well, I believe when Jesus said, "I was hungry and you gave me food, I was thirsty, you gave me drink, I was naked, you gave me clothing, I was a stranger, you took me in." And the disciples were baffled. They're asking, we've never seen you hungry, thirsty. And I believe Jesus was referring back to the time when he was a refugee, when he was unwelcome, unloved as a child. And he said, "As you've done it unto the least of these refugees, you've done it for me." So that's reason enough. But the other is that I believe the Lord wants to give us a new level of compassion and empathy. When you see these young women and these children that are traumatized, they have nothing. I reached out to hug one young lady, like a daughter. And as I pulled away, she pulled me back. That's why.
Yeah. Grant, you're writing stories about this.
Yeah, I think something that really caught my attention, and one thing that I wrote a story about that we were able to share is you were talking about, the importance of providing these meals, providing these cots, blankets, physical things, but also it not stopping there, the importance of spreading the gospel, spreading the word of Jesus Christ while you're there, while you're in the train station. You sent us some footage of just how you guys were trying to share the message there. How has that experience kind of been? What have you been able to do as far as sharing the gospel with these refugees who are coming in?
Great question. Ultimately, that's what it's about. But obviously, when you care for somebody that's lost everything, they're on the run, they're open to hearing about Jesus and they're grateful. And I can tell you that in talking and hearing from soldiers on the front, the defense of Ukraine, obviously they're saying the best way to help us is to take care of our wives and children. And so, not that we're not wanting to support the defense there with food at some point if we do that, but right now there is an incredible openness. And then when they go to these churches, they are showered with the love of Jesus. And we also spend time, Grant, in Warsaw. And I know you have pictures of it, videos of interviewing people that are trying to take their money out of the bank or get at least 20 cents on the dollar. And those stories are pretty amazing that we were able to capture, and heroic. I mean, 3-4 days, they would get on the train and they would have all their belongings, and it'd be so tight that people on the train they would shove their suitcases out the window. And so here they are arriving in Poland. In Poland, what an incredible country.
Yes.
I mean, talking about the gift of compassion and hospitality, you're talking about 1.7 million thus far. We know it could eclipse 3 million. Look at the population of Warsaw. It's only like 1.8, 1.9. Can you imagine doubling in your population overnight?
Yeah.
They are amazing people that need to be saluted.
Dave, tell us a story or two, if you will, about the pastors on the front lines in Ukraine and some of the interactions they're having, if you can. And then tell us a story or two about those Polish pastors and that network there and how they're embracing these people. You know, I think about 9/11 when the whole world went to, I think, Iceland and landed their planes there, and how those people welcomed them all in. Tell us about what's going on with the pastors on the front lines, and what more can we do to equip them, support them, help them be safe, and then what's going on sort of in Poland to embrace Ukrainians that are fleeing?
It's a great question. I think one of the best examples is Mark Kaminsky, Bishop Mark Kaminsky. He's working around the clock. I mean, they're all stretched and exhausted. And this is a true leader. He is serving his pastors. I was with him. Our team was with him during meetings. He's such an encouragement, an inspirer. But at the same time, we're working together, as I mentioned, to really encourage and resource these churches. One of the greatest needs is vehicles. We have been trying to evacuate women using cars. It's too slow, and if they have luggage, it's just so encumbering. So we have purchased a fleet of vans. It costs like $22,000 each, and we stepped out in faith to buy those vans. They're critical. We've got to have vans on the borders at these crossings to when these women cross over and their children, we've got to be there to greet them, get them to a safe house, and they can't linger. They can't. I want your listeners to hear this. They cannot linger at that border. It's critical, severe, life and death. So we are stepping out to purchase these vans. I can tell you, I wired $100,000 yesterday to buy more vans, and that way we can use it for transportation, evacuation, but also we can get our food and emergency supplies to these churches that are becoming relief centers.
And Dave, we're going to ask our listeners and our viewers and our readers to go to the Western Journal to obviously read about what's going on there. But in the Western Journal, there's links to your site to support you. And we're asking all of our viewers and our readers to go click on that link and to support CityServe in this critical time of need right now. And I know that 100% of those funds are tax deductible, and a significant percentage of those funds actually get to the front lines because your overhead, your operation is very tight. So those funds are getting to the front lines. They're helping people who are fleeing. There are people who are in desperate straits to live, to get to the border, to get across the border. And Dave, it's just an honor to partner with you, to link arms with you, my friend, and your team, your phenomenal team of people that have been working around the clock with us to help us get the stories, to help us get the videos, to help us get this, what's going on out there. So please go to Western Journal and CityServe site and support them today. Every dollar is getting to the front lines. It's tax deductible. You are helping brothers and sisters in need. I can't implore you enough to help this amazing and important cause right now for such a time as this.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, it's easy for people to not want to support a certain cause if they don't know where their money is going to go or what exactly it's going to go to. Like Paul's saying, I mean, you're telling us exactly what you're using this money for, how you're helping these people to get out directly. And so I think it's super impactful to hear, how you can help directly these people who are fleeing, who are trying to, become safe, find a safe area, and just to see, your donations, anything that people can do to be able to go to that is super encouraging.
Well,
Dave?
we've committed to 95% is getting to the front lines.
Amen.
And we're even trying to raise that 5% through foundations and others so that 100%. But obviously there are expenses, travel and the transportation and some of the other expenses. But I can tell you that 95% thus far, and it will continue, at least 95% will get to the front lines.
Well, we're standing with you, Dave. We've heard a horrific report of something that's going on at the front. We've heard, and it may not be able to be substantiated in any way, but we've heard that Ukrainians are being murdered and their body parts harvested. I know that may or may not be substantiated, but maybe you've heard the same.
The context of it is that the refugees are so desperate for housing that they're going to social media. And obviously anybody can masquerade, as a safe haven. And we were told by one woman, we have her on video in the line, she's waiting there at the bank. And she said that the Polish government told them, do not do that. Do not, go online looking for this housing. And because there are these predators that are everywhere that are looking to lure, especially younger women and men into their homes and then kill them. And then they receive a high price for body parts. That's what we were told.
Oh. There's no words to even respond to that. I mean,
Yeah.
what do we do with that, Grant?
I mean, I think it highlights, the importance of the work you guys are doing over there and how dire the situation is. Obviously, it's a terrible thing to even have to discuss, to talk about, but I think it shows, how pressing it is over there and how important it is for you guys to be there on the ground working, and just how thankful we should be for the work you guys are doing.
Yeah, and this is why those relationships, Dave, that you and the CityServe team have built with these pastors over years, these people can be trusted in their communities to thwart that kind of black market, illegal, horrific activity that's going on. That trust factor, that being in the community, that being visible in the community, I just pray that that the Lord would elevate your exposure in those communities.
Well, if God can get it through you, he'll give it to you. And this is close to his heart.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that we have a model here that's working. It just needs more resources, more funding. If people will support this is what we're going to be able to do. We're going to be able to rush more emergency food and supplies into Ukraine to families there, even behind enemy lines. We're going to be able to continue to expand our fleet there to evacuate women and their children from these crossings, these dangerous crossings, and out of these haunted house train stations. And we're going to be able to build the capacity of the churches throughout Ukraine and Poland, Romania, Moldova. And we can make sure that these churches are the church family, and we can wrap our arms around these families and make sure that they are protected, cared for, and that they truly see firsthand, experience the love and compassion of Jesus from around the world.
I have a question that I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer, if it's something that you've experienced, but to me, just covering this crisis and seeing people's responses, sometimes I feel like it's become politicized. Nobody's really supporting Russia, but this question of how much should America be sending to Ukraine? What should we be doing? This and that. Have you found it difficult to kind of say, I'm going to separate this political part and I'm going to talk about, we want to help these people? How have you been able to show people that it's not a political issue, it's a human issue?
Yes.
Well, I think you said it well. I don't get into the geopolitics of this. I'm a relief worker, Christian relief worker. That's my job. That's my role. And I've already laid out the strategy, the need, and people can make excuses for not giving, not participating, and they're going to miss out. They're going to miss out on God's blessing upon them, their business, their family. This is like the young lad with the loaves of bread and the fish. You know, he could have had an ordinary lunch, a good lunch. He gave it to Jesus. Jesus multiplied it to feed the multitude. Instead of having an ordinary lunch, he had an extraordinary lunch. You want to have an ordinary life? Keep it. Keep it all, but you give it to Jesus through things like this, he'll multiply it, and you will experience the extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we are grateful that you're on the ground there. We're grateful for your team on the ground there, for the so many people that will never know their name, but certainly the Lord does, and the Lord is with them. You keep doing the relief work, and we'll do the politics work here at the Western Journal. How's that sound? We'll comment on that for sure.
Absolutely.
And look, I know CityServe is also, you're poised to do relief work around the world, but certainly here in the country, in our country as well. So you've responded to local crises. You've been on the ground with local crises. You have a pastors network set up here to do these very things here at home. And right now here at home, we need Americans to be on their knees, to be praying, to be asking the Lord for wisdom, to be humbling ourselves before the Lord and crying out for protection and service here at home as we reach out to our own neighbors here at home. And that's why we're proud to stand with CityServe and lock arms here in America and in Ukraine and wherever else the Lord takes us with the next relief project, because we know there'll be many. So again, Dave, we stand with you. We ask our viewers to support CityServe, continue to support the Western Journal by telling others about us and subscribing to our service, and just be in prayer for Dave Donaldson, CityServe, and his team.
Well, thank you so much. You said it well, from your neighborhood to the nations. That's the mission.